Hello there, welcome to Cansanity. Today I'd like to take the time to talk to you about how to preserve peppers in the summertime for use in the winter in something like a chili. For my chili I like to use habaneros, jalapenos, poblanos, and bell peppers. This year I had an abundance of habaneros growing in my garden. So once I was done making my salsas and my hot pepper jelly, I decided what I was going to do was dehydrate some of the habaneros. So to dehydrate a habanero, you slice it in quarters, take out the seeds, and then put it in a dehydrator like this on trays. And then depending on the fruit or vegetable you're dehydrating, it's going to run 10 to 18 hours. In this case, I ended up with my nice habaneros, that nice bag of habaneros like this. And so today for my chili, what I decided to do was use a tablespoon of habaneros because I wanted it to be really spicy. And so I took my habaneros and I put it in my coffee grinder. Now I took my coffee grinder outside. You don't want to blend something like habaneros inside in a coffee grinder or a food processor because the small particles will escape the coffee grinder, and well, if you inhale it, you're gonna have it's gonna be quite tingly. So take anything like this outside to blend for use in your kitchen. So the other pepper that I put in my chili is jalapenos. And in the summer, I also had an abundance of jalapenos growing in my garden. And so what I do with jalapenos is I slice them up small, put them in an ice cube tray, put a thin layer of water over top of that, and then pop it in the freezer overnight. Then, if I'm going to use those jalapenos within 2 to 3 months, I put them in a Ziploc container. But if I plan to use those jalapenos past 3 months, the best way to preserve chopped peppers like that is to use a food saver where you can actually vacuum seal, take out all the air out of the bag and then vacuum seal it. So I actually have my food saver right over here, and they're very simple to use. And if you plan on really getting into preserving fruits and vegetables, I highly recommend it because it really prolongs the shelf life in the freezer of anything that you're freezing, because taking out the air just helps the contents just stay fresh longer. So to use a vacuum sealer, you just cut off the size of bag that you want, seal it at one end, fill it with your product, and then seal it up. And I use mine for fruits, vegetables, and when I buy large portions of meat from somewhere, I vacuum seal up meat as well for the freezer. And anything that I've actually vacuum sealed and preserved that way lasts way longer than in a Ziploc bag. Now, you could reuse the bags once you take whatever it is that you've frozen for use for your soups or your stews, vegetables. Then you can wash that bag and dry it, or what I like to do is I put it over glass, and you could reuse that in the future for another fruit or vegetable that you might be freezing. For chicken or meat, I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. You should just throw those bags away. So I have my jalapenos here ready to go for my chili, but the other peppers that I used in my chili are poblanos and bell peppers. Poblanos are my absolute favorite pepper to use in a chili. It has a really nice smoky flavor, and it has sometimes a little bit of heat as well. And so I use poblanos in my salsas, and usually I buy them at the farmer's market by the bushel. And when I'm making my salsa, I might end up with half a dozen poblanos left over, and instead of wasting them, I chop them up small, and I usually like to mix that with chopped up bell pepper of red and green, and then I vacuum seal them as well, and then I have these small packages of frozen peppers that I can use in a chili or a soup. So now that I've talked to you about the peppers that I'm going to use in my chili, I'm just going to show you how quickly, once you've taken the time in the summertime to preserve some of those peppers, how quickly a chili will come together for you in the wintertime. So I've already opened up my cans of tomatoes that I'm going to use. So I use 3 cans of tomatoes, diced tomatoes. I throw the juices in there. I don't mind if my chili's a little bit runny, and so I just don't mind putting the juices in there as well. If you want a thicker chili, then go ahead, strain out some of the water and just put the diced tomatoes in there instead of having also the liquid. So I had some fresh mushrooms left over in my fridge, and I thought, well, I might as well not waste those. I'll throw those as well in my chili. And then because I didn't have a lot of mushrooms, I decided, well, I'm going to open up a can of mushrooms as well, and so I'll throw that in there. I'm going to throw my ice cube of jalapenos in there, and my diced poblanos and red pepper as well. And then I'm going to take I actually sauteed up some onions earlier. I like to saute the onions up for 2 to 3 minutes just to get the flavors to come out in the onions a little bit better. Usually what I do also then is just throw my garlic in with the onions and saute that for another minute. But this time I just didn't want to have the stove on as well, and so that I didn't want to have that background noise. So just throwing that in the pot as well. Then because I'm making a vegetarian chili today, I already opened up black beans and kidney beans and rinsed them, and so they're ready to go for the pot as well. If you want to make this, put meat in there, you can just brown up some ground beef, a pound of ground beef, and throw that in there as well. I'm going to add my spiced, freshly ground habaneros. Put that on top. So, it's good. And then for spices, I like to use ancho chili pepper. And so I'll just use about a tablespoon and put that in there as well. And I put about a tablespoon of nice smoky cumin. A little bit of salt and pepper. Today I'm just going to use some kosher salt. That's probably good. It's about a teaspoon that I'm adding there. And some just black pepper. About a teaspoon's good on that too. And then what I like to do as well is add about a tablespoon of cocoa powder. It adds a nice depth of flavor. Today I have Dutch processed cocoa powder. And so I just add about a tablespoon of that as well. And then I'll just give that a little stir. It already smells good with all of that smells of the peppers and the onions and the garlic. I could just probably eat it just right fresh from the bowl like that. Then all you have to do when you're using a slow cooker is put the lid on it and set it and forget it. And the great thing about that is now I can go outside and get a nice walk in. Thank you for joining me in this video. Have a great day.